sang these psalms as they were going up to Jerusalem together to worship the Lord. And there's a sense that they're all heading upward. Jerusalem is physically on a hill. And so there was this idea of going up to the hill, up to Jerusalem, and up to the temple. And so this idea is that they're going up to God. Now, I have a couple of pictures. This is the steps of the temple in Jerusalem that Paul and I saw. We were in Israel a few years ago, and so there we are. That's going up the steps to the original gate entrance. This is kind of a new entrance now. But and this was very moving to me, to be right there on the steps, because you knew that Jesus was on those steps. You know, it was really a beautiful, beautiful time. In recent years, in 2004, archaeologists found what they believe was the road that pilgrims would have taken to get to the temple in Jerusalem. It was hidden under a potato field, and it was discovered by accident when a pipe broke. And this is the quote that at the time, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, said about it. He said this: "From a sewage pipe that burst came these excavations that resulted in the discovery of the pool of Siloam, where all the Jewish pilgrims would come and cleanse themselves before ascending to the temple, and an entire road was uncovered. Not a relic, not an antiquity, but an entire road intact from that pool ascending to the temple." So it's pretty cool. We actually were able to be in the pool of Siloam also under that. That's not our picture, but. So, you know, we have this idea of these pilgrims walking on this road from wherever they came from, walking this road in Jerusalem to the temple, up to God, always toward God, always moving toward God. And, you know, Jesus operated this way as well, right? He also went up those steps to the temple. He also celebrated the festivals, and he followed that road to the Father. No matter what he did, he was always going towards the Father, toward what he had for him, even all the way to the cross, right? Jesus followed that same road. He was on a journey as well. And God has you and I on a journey towards Him. He is the goal of our journey. He is taking us on steps in our life to Himself. And this journey might not always be straightforward. Our journeys may meander, they may make some side turns, and our journey will reflect that. And the Psalms of Ascent are there for us with that, because they also reflect some meandering. They're basically hopeful and positive, but they also complain about problems and sins and trials and things, but every one of them looks to God as their hope. It's toward God. It's looking toward God. And so this morning, rather than a normal, 3-point sermon on a psalm, we're going to actually walk through these psalms. We're going to take all these steps up, and I'm going to be reading you just little clips from each one of the psalms. I encourage you to read all 15 this week, from 120 to 134. But we're going to be kind of pretending that we're the pilgrims walking up these steps while we're singing the psalms. Where is God taking us? He's taking us on a journey. We're going up to the temple. We're going up to God, you and I together today. And what do driving instructors say to new drivers? They say, keep your eyes on what? The road. Keep your eye on the road, right? Keep your eye on God as we're on this journey. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Let's lift up our eyes to God and watch Him as we're on this journey. We're going to see that together. And so we're going to start at the very bottom, the very first step. And the very first step that we see in the very first Psalm of Ascent is to realize dissatisfaction. Most journeys start with some level of dissatisfaction. Even if it's just you turning to your spouse and saying, we got to get out of here, let's go on vacation. We need a weekend away, we need something, I'm sick of looking at these four walls. Most of us start on a journey because of some level of dissatisfaction. And sometimes the dissatisfaction is simply that. We're just bored, we need to do something new for once, but sometimes the dissatisfaction is deeper than that, right? Some of us wonder, why am I here today doing what I'm doing? Is this really what I'm meant to be doing? We're dissatisfied with, sitting out one night and doom scrolling on Instagram and just wasting time on Netflix. Why am I anxious all the time? Well, how can I change this part of my life? If I don't change something, I feel like I'm not going to make it. How can I keep doing what I'm doing? That level of dissatisfaction settles in to some of our lives, and we realize I don't like who I am right now, or what I'm doing, or the people I'm with. I need to change something. Dissatisfaction starts to set in. And I want to say this is a really important moment as a person, to realize the dissatisfaction. In fact, I pray that you have moments of dissatisfaction. And you're like, Beth, why would you pray that for us? That's not very nice. But it's only when we get a little dissatisfied with something that we change, that we grow, that we start to seek God in a deeper way, in a more passionate way, in a more desperate sometimes way, and He starts to move us. And we don't move, most of us, unless we're a little dissatisfied because we're stubborn and we're also maybe lazy. We like to just keep doing what we're doing until the dissatisfaction is such that we got to move. We got to change something. And I think it's a good thing to change the way we're going to be dealing with our job, the kind of jobs we're in, the way we deal with our families or with our friends at school or whatever we do. It is a good thing to feel some dissatisfaction, to say, I want something to change here. It can be a good thing. So let's hear the dissatisfaction of the psalmist in Psalm 120, the very first Psalm of Ascent. And he says this, I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. Save me, Lord, from lying lips and from deceitful tongues. Woe to me that I dwell in Meshach, that I live among the tents of Kedar. Too long have I lived among those who hate peace. I am for peace, but when they speak, they are for war. He's dissatisfied. He doesn't like who he's with and where he is. They're not his people. They're not the kind of people he wants to be around, and this dissatisfaction is stirring him up. And I'm going to just say to us this morning, if there's a dissatisfaction in your life, don't run away from it. Let God stir it up. Let God speak to you through the dissatisfaction and begin to change and to move. So that's the first step. Second step, he turns to God. It's important to see that in his dissatisfaction, the psalmist doesn't turn to a self-help book. He doesn't turn to his friends or family for advice. He doesn't turn to, the latest influencer on YouTube. He doesn't turn to any other sources. He turns to God first in his dissatisfaction, to God and God alone. He doesn't look to find a new spouse or a new car or something new. He says, I'm going to seek God. Psalm 121, he says this, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. Before we turn to all the other things, we're going to have to turn to other things at some point, but also turn to God first. This is what the psalmist shows us. Start by lifting up your eyes to the Lord. If we don't do that, and we're looking at something else, and we start the journey, we're going away from what God wants. We have to be looking to God as we start the journey. All right, step 3. Start rejoicing. Psalm 122 says, I rejoiced with those who said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Our feet are standing in your gates, Jerusalem. And I love how this psalm starts with rejoicing, with praising. It's fascinating. At the beginning of this new journey, he's dissatisfied, he's not happy, but he tells us to rejoice first. And I don't know about you, but when I'm dissatisfied, rejoicing is not usually my first thought. Right? Our first thought is, when this job is better, and when I finally get the job, or when my kids start acting better, or when this relationship works out, then I'll rejoice. And that's how he's saying here. He's saying rejoice first. Start rejoicing right away. Start to praise first. We may not know where we're going, how it's going to end up, what the changes are going to be, but start rejoicing. Somebody today, this morning, needs to just start rejoicing. Everything is a mess in your life, and you have no idea how it's going to get solved, and you're dissatisfied. But I'm telling you this morning, God's saying, rejoice. Rejoice anyway. Praise first. This is how the human mind works. See, God is the author of psychology because he created our minds. He understands how they work. And this is a concept that psychologists call learned optimism. And learned optimism is simply the idea that we stop this negativity and learned helplessness and we start to see optimistically our situation. And it's based on the idea that you and I know who we are, and if we are internally coherent, and if we're internally satisfied with who we are inside, then things can go on outside, externally, and they're just external things. Now, they may affect us, and we may not be happy about them, but if we know who we are internally,